Sunday morning in the Patterson house felt like a stage play no one wanted tickets to. The dining room, with its polished oak table and sun-drenched windows, should have felt warm, comforting. Instead, the late summer light poured in like an interrogation lamp, making every tense face and forced smile that much more visible. Rachel sat across from Marlene, posture rigid, hands clenched in her lap beneath the table. Her plate was untouched, eggs congealing slowly beside limp greens she didn't ask for. Her eyes never left her sister, not even to blink. To her right, Eli scrolled silently through his phone, pretending he didn't notice the storm brewing. Beside him, Jonah pushed a slice of bacon around with his fork like he was trying to make it disappear. Eric sat at the head of the table, smiling too much and eating too little, the usual fixer caught between two unfixable people. The conversation had been safe. Weather, property taxes, how the neighbors just got a new labradoodle, until Marlene reached into her bag. "I found something while going through Dad's things," she said, casually, almost gently. It was tucked in with his cufflinks. "I thought Eli might want to have it." She pulled out a rectangular object wrapped in soft cotton and unwrapped it with deliberate care. A silver money clip, dulled with time but still elegant, gleamed faintly in the morning light. The initials RJP were etched deep into the metal, Raymond Joseph Patterson, their late father. Marlene extended it across the table with both hands. Eli blinked, hesitated, then took it. His fingers closed around it slowly, as though the object might burn him. The silence that followed was brief, but it was enough. Rachel shoved her chair back with a scrape that made everyone flinch. "You don't get to do that anymore." The words came from somewhere low in her chest, controlled but full of fire. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. The room tightened around it. Marlene didn't answer. She didn't even flinch. Her expression remained cool, unreadable. "You don't get to give out heirlooms like you're still one of us," Rachel continued. "You forfeited that right. You're dead to us." Eli's face went slack. The money clip trembled slightly in his hand. Jonah dropped his fork. The clink it made against his plate sounded final somehow. Eric froze mid-sip of coffee. He set the mug down with exaggerated care, as if noise might tip this further into chaos. "Rach," he said carefully, "maybe this isn't the time." "No," she said, louder now. "It's exactly the time. I'm tired of pretending this brunch means something. We all are." She turned her eyes back to Marlene. "You walk in here with gifts like it erases everything? Like years just vanish if we pour enough cream into our coffee?" Still, Marlene didn't speak. Instead, she took one last sip, dabbed at her mouth with her napkin, and stood. She smoothed her cardigan, adjusted the pearl brooch near her collar, and looked at none of them. She walked around the table slowly, the heels of her shoes clicking softly against the floor. No goodbyes, no defense, no emotion. The front door opened, then closed. Silence. Rachel remained standing, shoulders tight, jaw clenched. Her heart thundered in her ears, but her face stayed composed. She looked down the hallway like she expected Marlene to reappear, maybe with tears, maybe with fury, but nothing happened. "She shouldn't have come," Rachel muttered. Eli set the money clip down like it weighed 100 pounds. "You didn't need to say it like that," he said quietly. "She needed to hear it," Rachel shot back. "We all needed to hear it." Eric exhaled slowly, as if measuring every word. "That was a funeral sentence. You know that, right? There's no coming back from this." Rachel's eyes met his. "Good." Jonah finally spoke, barely above a whisper. "I didn't know she still had Dad's things." "Of course she did," Rachel replied bitterly. "She took everything when she left. She wanted to be in charge, and she got what she wanted." From outside, birds chirped. A neighbor's dog barked. A car door slammed somewhere down the block. Inside, time felt frozen. The aftermath hung heavy in the air, thicker than the smell of burned toast and bitter coffee. Then from down the hallway, faint but undeniable, came the sound of a voice. Marlene's? She wasn't gone. She was still in the house. She was laughing. Marlene shut the laundry room door gently behind her, cutting off the sound of clinking cutlery and Rachel's brittle voice. She stood in the dim hallway for a long moment, letting the silence settle. Not true silence. She could still hear the low hum of the dishwasher, the faint whir of the AC, but silence enough. She laughed once, low and hollow. The kind of laugh that didn't reach her eyes, didn't belong to amusement. It was what was left when grief ran out of breath. Then she walked to the garage, where her car was parked in perfect order, where none of them would think to follow. She slid into the front seat, pulled the door shut, and locked it. From the glove box, she retrieved the leather folio she'd kept zipped since February, the one with her legal documents, property appraisals, and a single yellow sticky note that simply read, "You are still here." Marlene opened it and began sorting. There was the deed to the house, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, corner lot, fully paid off since 2014. Estimated market value, just shy of $900,000. Next, her savings account summary, 6 figures, even after the long care expenses for her late husband. Then the pension, the Roth IRA, the municipal bond ladder, stable, boring money. Then came the valuables, the diamond wedding ring, the vintage sapphire brooch from her mother, and the monogram jewelry set she hadn't worn since Thanksgiving 2006. All cataloged, all listed, all hers. She flipped to the last page, her will. The original copy was still signed, still legally binding, but that would change soon. She reached into her purse and pulled out a slim red pen. Carefully, with the precision of someone tracing a final incision, she circled Rachel's name. Then beneath it, in block letters, "Permanently disinherited." The ink bled slightly into the parchment, like blood soaking into snow. She stared at the words for a long time. Her fingers trembled, but not from doubt. From the passenger seat, an old Polaroid peeked out of the folder's pocket. She hadn't meant to bring it. It must have slipped in by accident. She unfolded it gently. Thanksgiving 1999. All 4 siblings, Rachel, Eric, Jonah, Eli, clustered around the fireplace, holding paper plates loaded with mashed potatoes and pie. She stood behind them, arms loosely folded, smiling with her whole face. They looked younger, lighter, still connected. She flipped the photo over. Her late husband had written, "Before it started." Before what started, Marlene wondered. The lies, the cold glances at holidays, the way Rachel had slowly, almost skillfully, excised her from every family gathering. The worst part wasn't being cut off. It was knowing the kids had been told she was already gone. She hadn't seen Jonah's girls in 4 years. When she'd run into Teresa, her old co-worker, one of the few who still hugged her in public, she'd heard it straight. "They told the kids you were dead? Marlene, that's enough. That's cruelty." Marlene had smiled then, just slightly, enough to hide the hairline crack. Now, in the garage, that crack widened. She pulled out her phone and opened her notes app, scrolled to the contact pinned to the top. Andre Franks, estate law, probate, and revenge. Well, technically just estate law. The revenge was hers. She tapped the number. The line rang once, twice. Andre speaking. "It's time," she said simply. "I've got the documents ready to review. You want me to file the amendment?" "Not yet. I want to sign in person." "When?" "Tomorrow." A pause. Then, "Understood." She ended the call and exhaled slowly. Her hand hovered over the folio for a moment longer, then zipped it shut. Before she stepped out of the car, she checked her reflection in the rearview mirror. Lipstick still clean. Eyes dry, posture straight. Let them think she walked away. Let them think it was over. Because now, for the first time in years, she wasn't reacting. She was planning. Andre Franks didn't say much as he flipped through the pages of Marlene's estate binder. The office was small, tucked behind a row of medical clinics and title companies in a suburban strip plaza. No gold-plated signage, just a brushed metal door plaque that read, "Franks and Wolf, estate law, the kind of place you drove past 100 times without seeing. The kind of place you only noticed when you needed it. Marlene sat across from him in a black turtleneck and tailored slacks. Her hair was pinned cleanly at the nape of her neck, silver strands woven in like deliberate threads. She hadn't spoken since she handed him the folder. Andre's eyes scanned each document quickly but thoroughly. He didn't blink much. His fingers moved like a surgeon's, deliberate, precise. When he got to the red-circled name, he finally looked up. "Rachel," he said, more as confirmation than question. Marlene gave a single nod. He closed the folder softly and folded his hands. "Tell me everything." So she did. Not the version Rachel probably told at dinner parties or neighborhood wine nights. Not the watered-down version Eric swallowed to keep peace. Marlene laid it out like testimony. How she'd been the one to manage their father's end-of-life care while Rachel hosted brunches. How she'd taken time off work, paid for medications no one reimbursed her for, answered 3 a.m. calls from the hospice nurse, while the others sent vague texts from airports and conferences. She explained the last Thanksgiving she was invited to, how Rachel had introduced her as an old family friend. The cards never sent, the photos cropped, the Cold War of omission. And the final blow, how Jonah's youngest had asked, with the innocence only a child could manage, "Are you the dead aunt?" Andre listened the whole time, expression unreadable. When she finished, she didn't cry. She didn't pause for sympathy. She simply asked, "Can I make sure she never gets anything? Not a penny, not a key, not a photograph." Andre leaned back and exhaled slowly. "We won't just cut. We'll preempt. We'll protect." He reached for his legal pad, already scribbling. "We start with an irrevocable trust," he said, with conditional exclusion clauses so airtight, no probate judge in the state will question it. Your home, your accounts, any material assets, funneled through the trust, with designated successors. Marlene's eyes flickered. "And if they challenge it?" "They'll lose, but we'll make it cost them." His pen moved swiftly. Legal fees set to trigger against the estate only if there's no challenge. One step toward a court filing, and they forfeit all rights. Marlene let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "Good." Andre turned the page. "You mentioned Eli and Jonah. Any ongoing needs?" "Eli's diabetic. Jonah has his demons." "Special provisions," Andre nodded. "Will establish education and wellness subtrusts. Locked to personal use only. Tuition, medical, housing, therapy. Nothing transferable. No way to borrow against them. No access by spouses, exes, or Rachel." He paused, looked her in the eye. "You want to leave Rachel nothing, correct?" "Worse than nothing," Marlene said coldly. "I want my silence to speak louder than her lies." Andre smiled for the first time, just barely. "Then we'll write it like it's war." He slid a blank draft across the table and clicked his pen open. Marlene's hand didn't shake this time. As she signed the first line, something shifted in the room. Not relief, not vengeance, but clarity. A mirror finally cleaned. She wasn't rewriting history. She was reclaiming it. They'd pretended she was gone. Now she was making it true. Eric called on a Tuesday afternoon. His voice was low, careful, like a man trying to defuse a bomb he didn't understand. "She's upset," he said, skipping hello. Marlene sat at the kitchen table, a black pen in her hand, her will still open beside her. She didn't look at it. She's always upset when she doesn't control the room. She says she didn't mean it like that. The brunch, the money clip. Marlene's lips curled. Then tell her to explain it to the boys. Let her look them in the eye and say, "I deserve to be erased." She doesn't want to drag them into it. She already did. Eric sighed, and for a moment she could picture him rubbing the bridge of his nose like he used to during family meetings, always the one trying to stretch a too small blanket over too many people. "She regrets the obituary lie," he said finally. "She's had years to say that." "She won't say it now." "I know." She hung up. An hour later, Teresa knocked once and walked in. She carried 2 iced coffees, a laptop bag, and a familiar no-nonsense energy Marlene had come to rely on. "Time to build the wall," she said, setting everything down on the dining table. Evidence, receipts, no drama, just data. They got to work. Screenshots from group chats where Rachel subtly edged her out. The change from all of us to us. The birthdays quietly rescheduled. The location changes never passed along. Emails with subject lines like family update, where Marlene's name was conspicuously absent. Posts from Rachel's Facebook with comments like, "It's better without the drama," under photos from events Marlene had never even heard about. The Polaroid from Thanksgiving 1999. A text Jonah once sent in the middle of the night that said, "I wish I'd stood up to her back then." And then the witness list. 3 names of people who'd seen it all, heard it, remembered. Teresa typed without stopping, her fingers flying over the keys. "I'm organizing this into a digital log, PDF plus encrypted backup. We'll call it the Patterson Archive." By 4:30, the file was 27 pages long. Marlene reviewed every line like she was checking a ledger. "Send this to Andre. Ask him to start the protective addendum." Teresa nodded. Done. That night, Marlene sat in bed reading when her phone buzzed. A text from Teresa. "Check Rachel's page." Marlene pulled it up. The post was fresh, less than an hour old. Short, passive-aggressive in that carefully polished way Rachel had mastered over the years. "Old women really think they're entitled to everything just because they didn't die when they should have." 45 likes. Comments pouring in. "You're braver than me." "They always think they're the victims." "Say it louder, sis." Marlene stared at the words without blinking. She took a screenshot, opened her email, forwarded it to Andre with the subject line, "Add this to the archive." His reply came 2 minutes later, confirmed, logged, draft underway. She powered her phone off and set its screen down beside the lamp. The room was quiet, not soft, not peaceful, but quiet in a way that felt earned. The next morning, 2 emails sat at the top of her inbox. The first, Andre's update. Draft of protective addendum attached. Recommend review before end of week. The second had no message body, just a subject line. "Rachel Patterson has requested access to your medical records." Marlene stared at it, unblinking. No permission, no warning, no reason, unless Rachel was preparing to make a case that Marlene wasn't of sound mind. Not just an erasure now, a full discrediting. She stood up slowly, walked to the window, and looked out at her quiet street. Everything in place. Mailbox closed. Trash bins rolled in. And yet, something had changed. Rachel wasn't just afraid of being cut out. She was preparing for war. The next time Marlene sat in Andre Frank's office, she wore navy, not black, not gray. Navy was the color you wore when something was final. Andre slid the final draft across the desk without ceremony. His cufflinks glinted under the recessed ceiling light, but his expression was still, solemn, focused, exact. "You've reviewed every page?" he asked. "Twice," Marlene replied, and once out loud. She uncapped the pen herself. The pages didn't feel like paper. They felt like stone, like carving something permanent. She signed. On page 12, the trust name was printed in bold. The Marlene G. Patterson Irrevocable Estate Trust. Every asset now flowed through it. Her home, her retirement accounts, the antiques, the art, the heirloom silver her grandmother had protected through a war. No probate court, no disputes, no interference, not even a whisper of permission for someone like Rachel to contest it. Andre flipped to the exclusion clause. "We're naming Rachel explicitly," he said, "as advised, with citation of incident and supporting records. This will stand." Marlene nodded. He read it aloud for clarity. "Rachel Patterson is to receive no portion of the estate, nor any item or derivative thereof, for cause, as documented in attached exhibits A.D. Any attempt by her, or by a representative acting in her interest, to contact, access, or challenge this trust shall nullify all contingent entitlements granted to associated family members. He glanced up. You understand the scope of that clause. I wrote it. Andre didn't smile. Not many people are this direct. Not many people have been buried alive by their own family. She turned to the next page. Eric's name came next, not erased, but carved with caution. Contingent inheritance, Andre said. He receives a token sum, only if he neither contests the trust nor enables contact from excluded parties. If he shares anything, even a sentence, he forfeits his share. Marlene signed again, slower this time. He's still my brother, she said quietly. But he doesn't get to play both sides forever. Andre nodded once. Understood. He flipped to the education trusts. One for Eli, one for Jonah. Subfunds sealed until age 18. Protected against external claims. Restricted use, tuition, housing, therapy, medical, caregiving. No access by anyone outside named guardians, Andre said. No loans, no redirection. If someone even tries to leverage them, they vanish, Marlene finished. Exactly. She signed both, hand steady. The final signature line sat beneath the successor trustee designation. She didn't hesitate. Teresa's name was printed in neat serif font. Teresa Caldwell, successor trustee with full fiduciary control. She knows where everything is, Marlene said. She knows who I am. That's more than I can say for the people who share my blood. Andre turned over the final page, placed the trust into its folder, and closed it like a sealed vault. It's done, he said. Marlene exhaled. Not relief, not yet, but something closer to gravity, like settling into a place no one could shake loose. They'll know eventually, Andre added. When you're gone, when the will's read, when the doors don't open. I'm counting on it. He hesitated, then asked gently, do you want to add a statement, something in your own words, for the record? Marlene looked out the window. The blinds were closed, but she could see sunlight threading through them, warm and sharp, like glass you couldn't hold too long. She turned back. No, she said. Silence is the only message they ever gave me. She stood, smoothed the front of her blazer, collected her folder. But just before she reached the door, she turned back. Email me a PDF copy and burn the originals into backup drives. One for me, one for Teresa. Andre nodded. Already done, she paused. If anything happens to me early, unexpected. Andre didn't flinch. The trust autolocks, and your medical power of attorney reverts to Teresa, not Rachel. Marlene smiled, faint, sharp, final. Good. Andre examined the form in silence. His expression didn't shift, but the way he held the page, thumb and forefinger at the top corner as if it were contaminated, said everything. Marlene sat across from him, composed. She didn't need to look at it again. It's a forgery, Andre said quietly. I assumed. A lazy one, he added, laying it flat on the desk. The signature's off. Tilt's wrong, pressure points are inconsistent. And she used a witness who died 5 years ago. He tapped the embossed seal at the bottom. This design hasn't been in circulation since 2019. It's like she Googled a template and didn't even bother to update the details. She was counting on people not checking, Marlene said. That's always been her gift, sounding confident enough that no one asked questions. Andre nodded once. It would have slipped past most institutions. But not the bank. No, thankfully, someone flagged the mismatch. He opened a separate folder and slid it across the table. Inside was a formal notice from Marlene's credit union. Attempted authorization denied. Fraud protocol activated. Client advised. She tried to add herself as a co-signer, he said. Claimed she was your primary medical agent and was helping you with a financial transfer. Gave them this forged form as proof. Marlene's jaw tightened. And they notified you, and froze all account actions until they confirmed with me directly, he said. Which was smart. But this puts us in escalation territory now. This isn't just overstepping. No, Marlene said. It's criminal. Andre opened his laptop and turned it toward her. We need to revoke every prior authorization, power of attorney, medical directives, beneficiary designations, anything she could possibly copy, claim, or weaponize. Then we rebuild from scratch. This time under legal encryption protocols. No legacy access. Teresa only, Marlene said. She's the only person I trust with anything. I've already preloaded her as your sole proxy, Andre said, typing quickly. Financial and medical access split under dual verification systems. Everything will be double witnessed and protected by legal record. He paused, then added, We'll also place a security flag on your property records. If she tries to inquire about home ownership or deed status, it'll trigger a legal alert. Do it. She signed the revocation forms one by one, her hand steady. Then came the replacements. New healthcare proxy, new POA, new contingent guardian notices, all dated and stored in triple encrypted backups. When it was done, Andre looked up. This is bulletproof. She can't get near anything now. Not your doctor, not your pharmacy, not your taxes. If she makes another attempt, we'll get notified immediately. I want a report filed, Marlene said. Andre didn't blink. Police? Yes. I stopped at the station this morning. She reached into her purse and pulled out a neatly labeled folder. On the front, in block letters, Case 21, Forgery, Fraud, Abuse. Inside were photocopies of the forged form, her formal notarized statement, and 3 supporting exhibits, including the bank's alert. I asked for a case number. It's on the back page. Andre flipped to it. You're not just protecting yourself. I'm documenting the truth, she said. If I had died before that form was reviewed, she could have walked into a hospital and decided whether I lived or not. I want that on record. He nodded slowly. You're sure you're ready for what comes with this? Marlene's voice didn't waver. I spent years letting her write the story. That ends now. His phone buzzed on the desk. He glanced at the screen, then turned it over. And now you're going to get blowback. I'm ready for that too. Her phone buzzed almost immediately after. A text from Eric. You're escalating things. This isn't what Dad would have wanted. She read it once, then again, slower. For a moment, her fingers hovered over the screen. Not out of uncertainty, but to feel the weight of what she'd already let go. She typed one line. He told me to protect myself. You didn't listen. Then she hit send and turned off her phone. The house was silent. Not the soft, peaceful kind of silence. The other kind. The one that settled in after a confrontation. After the adrenaline faded. After the choices had been made and could no longer be undone. Marlene sat at the edge of her bed, holding a steaming mug of coffee she didn't remember pouring. Her eyes were dry, her back stiff. She'd spent so many days lately fighting, through lawyers, through documents, through Rachel's manipulation, that she hadn't realized she hadn't actually felt anything in weeks. And then it started. One tear, then another. Not loud, not gasping. Just slow, clean drops that tracked down her cheeks and fell onto her lap like they belonged there. It wasn't grief for Rachel. It wasn't regret. It was release. By late morning, she felt steady enough to do what she'd been putting off. She went to her writing desk, the one her father gave her when she graduated, and opened the top drawer. Inside was thick stationery she hadn't touched in years. She chose a blank page and uncapped a pen. She didn't start with a name. She didn't sign it with hers. There were no accusations, no defense, no bitterness. She wrote about moments, Eli's childhood nightmares and how he used to come sit on her bedroom floor, curled up with a blanket, just to feel safe. Jonah's piano recital, where he froze mid-performance, and she mouthed the notes from the front row until he found his place again. She described movie nights with mismatched socks and popcorn burned at the edges, the quiet understanding they always shared without needing to speak. She wrote about protection, how love, real love, was never loud. It was checking the car seat twice, packing the extra snack, leaving the hallway light on, even when they swore they weren't scared anymore. Not once did she mention Rachel, because this letter wasn't about absence. It was about presence. She ended it simply. Whatever you were told, remember this. You were loved. You were seen. You were protected. And that protection doesn't end. She folded the letter cleanly and slid it into a cream-colored envelope. No address, no note on the outside. Just wait. Just truth. Teresa arrived around noon, groceries in hand and concern in her eyes. Marlene handed her the envelope before she could ask anything. "Make sure they get this," she said, without commentary, without delay. Teresa read nothing aloud. She simply nodded and tucked it into her bag like it was sacred. "I'll deliver it personally. I won't say a word." "Thank you." They deserve to know what Rachel kept from them. "They'll find out soon enough," Marlene replied. "But I want them to hear it from me first." That afternoon, Andre called. "She's gone online," he said without introduction. "Implied financial coercion, accused you vaguely of elder neglect. Nothing direct, all implication." Marlene closed her eyes for a long moment, then opened them again. "She's trying to win public sympathy. She's trying to muddy the water before you can clear it. She won't say anything with evidence. No, but she's saying enough for people to assume." That's how this works. Marlene walked to the sink, rinsed out her mug, and dried it with slow precision. "Let her," she said. Andre paused. "You're not worried?" "She's relying on noise. I have documentation. I have witnesses. I have sealed, time-stamped truth. She's trying to provoke you into a mistake." "I'm done making those," Andre exhaled. "That letter, Teresa gave me a scanned copy for the archive. It's beautiful, gentle, but clear. Would hold up well if anything formal came of this." "That's not why I wrote it," Marlene said. "I know, but it matters." That evening, she didn't check social media. She didn't read the comments. She lit a candle, made herself a warm bowl of soup, and sat at the window, not watching, just being. She wasn't erasing anyone. She was reclaiming herself. And for once, she felt no need to explain it. The clinic didn't feel like a place meant for people. It felt like a place built to process them. Pale walls, thin chairs, a silent television mounted above a row of empty clipboards. Everything was efficient, quiet, a little too cold. Marlene sat near the window, her coat folded neatly in her lap. She didn't scroll her phone. She didn't look around. She watched the shadows of tree branches moving against the blinds. That was enough. When the nurse called her name, she rose without hesitation. The exam room was smaller than she expected. A single chair across from a wide desk, a monitor, a pad of paper, a pen that looked expensive and unused. The neuropsychologist introduced himself, polite but clinical. He reviewed her chart, asked her to confirm her date of birth, and explained the test structure. Marlene nodded. "Let's begin." The exam lasted just under 2 hours. They tested her orientation, her recall, her abstract reasoning, word associations, number sequencing, pattern recognition, visual memory, time management. When asked to list as many animals as she could in 60 seconds, she filled the time without pause. When asked to recall 5 unrelated objects after 20 minutes, she repeated them in perfect order, adding that the last 2 were also items in her home. The doctor made notes, typed responses, nodded as she worked through each segment. She remained composed, not performative, just clear. By the end, the doctor sat back and folded his hands. "Your scores place you well above the average cognitive function for your age. Spatial reasoning, working memory, verbal fluency. You're performing at the level of someone 10 to 15 years younger." Marlene didn't react. "Is that result strong enough to stand up in court?" He smiled. "More than strong enough." He slid a sealed envelope across the table. You'll want to give this to your attorney. It's notarized and time-stamped. If anyone questions your mental capacity again, they'll be arguing against science. She picked up the envelope and tucked it into her bag without opening it. Andre was waiting in the courthouse parking lot when she arrived, leaning against the hood of his car with a coffee in one hand and a folder in the other. "You have it?" he asked. She nodded, passing him the envelope. He opened it, scanned the document, then whistled. "This'll do." He handed her the coffee. "We're on the docket in 15 minutes. Motion to dismiss." Rachel filed a challenge without standing. "This'll close it." They walked into the courtroom together. Rachel didn't speak during the hearing. She sat in the second row with her arms crossed, chin lifted slightly, like posture could compensate for facts. Andre presented the motion efficiently. She submitted false documentation, he told the judge, including a forged power of attorney, which this court has already seen. She then accused my client of diminished capacity without any credible evidence. He held up the cognitive report. "This is a certified, independent neuropsychological evaluation conducted 3 days ago. The results speak for themselves." The judge flipped through the packet, then looked over his glasses at Rachel. "You're asking this court to override a binding trust, a durable POA, and a legally sanctioned estate plan, based on social media speculation and no verified documentation?" Rachel said nothing. "Motion to dismiss is granted," the judge ruled. "Future filings of this nature will be considered abuse of process. We're done here." That evening, Marlene sat in her living room with the lights off. She wasn't exhausted, just still. Still from the relief. Still from the noise finally falling away. Still in the way a person becomes after standing in their truth without apology. The envelope from the clinic sat on the coffee table beside her, unopened again. She didn't need to prove anything to herself. Her phone lit up once. Voicemail, Eric. She didn't play it right away. Instead, she picked up the mug of tea Teresa had left on the side table earlier, still warm, still sweet. Her hands were steady. She looked around her home, the same one Rachel tried to claim, the same one Eric said wasn't worth fighting over. And for the first time in weeks, she allowed herself a small smile. Not because she'd won, but because she'd stayed standing. And that, finally, was enough. The alert came just after midnight. Marlene was asleep when the notification pinged her phone. Teresa, who had insisted on staying the night, caught it first. She padded into the hallway, phone glowing in her hand. "You've got motion on the front door." Marlene, awake now, sat up slowly. "What time?" 12:07 a.m. Teresa opened the app, tapped the doorbell feed, and froze. There she was, Rachel, hood up, hair pulled back, standing just outside the edge of the porch light. She didn't knock, didn't ring, just tried the doorknob twice. When it didn't open, she stepped back, pulled out her phone, and took several photos of the front of the house. She leaned forward like she was checking for signs of life, then disappeared from the camera's view. "She didn't see the motion light," Teresa whispered. "Or she didn't care." Marlene stared at the frozen image, Rachel's outline blurred by motion. "Download it," she said. By 9 a.m., Andre had the footage. 10 minutes later, so did the local police department. "She's bold," the officer said after reviewing it. "And lucky she didn't trigger an alarm." "We want it on record," Marlene said. "I already have one report on file. This is number 2. Understood. We'll add it as a supplemental offense. Trespassing, attempted unlawful entry, violation of a known no-contact boundary." "Any questions?" Andre asked. The officer shook his head. "None. This one's clean." By noon, Andre had filed a permanent estate-level no-contact order. Rachel was now legally barred from communicating with Marlene, her legal counsel, the estate executor, or any affiliated trust entities. Any message, any attempt, verbal, digital, physical, would constitute harassment under state statute. "She has no role left to play," Andre said. "She's shut out. Permanently. There's no path for her back into your affairs." Good, Marlene replied. I mean it, he said. She can't call, email, request records, or attend any estate hearing. Nothing. She stopped being family when she started forging papers, Marlene said. Now she's just a threat. Teresa didn't stop at legal channels. She took the footage to the HOA board, the same board Rachel had served on for 6 years, with artificial smiles and holiday potlucks. She played it without commentary. Just hit play, crossed her arms, and waited. By the end, no one said a word. That's your golden girl, she said. The one who claimed Marlene was unstable. She came to the property at night, one of the board members asked. She tried the doorknob, Teresa replied. Would you feel safe after that? Within 48 hours, Rachel's position on the HOA board was suspended pending review. The woman who once organized neighborhood barbecues and posted about community integrity was suddenly very quiet online. Her comment sections were turned off. Marlene sat at her desk with a printed copy of her current obituary draft in front of her. She picked up a pen, read through the paragraph about surviving family, and crossed it out. She wrote something new. In clean cursive, survived by 2 grandsons, and none who stood silent. She underlined it once, then folded the paper and placed it in the envelope marked Final Estate Docs, tucked in the fireproof safe beside her will. Teresa watched from the doorway. She's unraveling. Marlene didn't look up. She's showing everyone what I already knew. You sure you're okay with how public it's becoming? I didn't make her come to my house in the middle of the night. I didn't make her lie under oath. I didn't make her treat legacy like currency. Teresa nodded slowly. She built this, Marlene said. I'm just not covering for it anymore. It was just after dinner when Eric knocked on the door. Not texted, not called, knocked. 3 short raps, the kind that sounded like they hoped no one would answer. Marlene opened it without a word. Eric looked smaller somehow, shoulders hunched, face hollowed, like someone who'd been absorbing damage secondhand for too long. She's not well, he said, not waiting to be invited in. Marlene stepped aside, silent. They didn't go to the living room. Instead, they sat across from each other at the dining table, the same one where, years ago, they'd planned their father's memorial with paper napkins and bitter coffee. Eric folded his hands like he was bracing for impact. She's unraveling. Marlene's gaze didn't shift. And you let her speak for both of you. I didn't know it would go this far. You knew enough. I thought if I stayed out of it, she'd calm down, that it would burn itself out. You thought silence would protect you. He looked down. It used to. They sat in silence, the kind that stretches into discomfort when neither person wants to be the first to flinch. I didn't know she came to your house that night, Eric said. Not until the footage. And what did you say to her after? His silence was answer enough. Marlene stood. She left the room and came back holding a red folder. She placed it in front of him like a judge delivering a sentence. What's this? A new clause. Andre drafted it yesterday. Eric opened the folder and read, Eric Patterson may access his contingent share of the Patterson Trust only upon completion of the following conditions. 1 full year of family therapy with a licensed counselor approved by the successor trustee. A written apology to Marlene Patterson to be reviewed and archived by estate counsel. 0 contact with Rachel Patterson, directly or indirectly, for 24 consecutive months. Eric blinked slowly. This is punishment. Marlene sat back down. It's protection. From enabling. From neutrality. I didn't forge anything. I didn't lie. You didn't stop her either. Eric closed the folder gently. What if I do all of it? Then I'll decide. After the boys turn 18. He frowned. Why wait? Because by then, they'll understand who stayed quiet and who stood up. His voice dropped. I never meant to hurt you. You didn't have to mean it. You just had to let it happen. Eric rested his elbows on the table, the red folder between his hands. She's my sister, too. No, Marlene said. She stopped being that when she treated legacy like leverage. He sighed. I don't know how to undo all of it. You can't undo it. You can only move forward with clean choices. He nodded, slow, tired. Will you still talk to me? Not today. He looked like he might argue, but didn't. Instead, he sat still for a long time, looking at the folder like it might disappear if he stared hard enough. Then quietly, will you tell them I came? If they ask, yes. If I follow through, then they'll know. He stood, folder tucked under one arm, and stepped toward the door. He hesitated just before opening it, like he still wanted to explain something, but the words never came. He left without defending her. For the first time, he didn't apologize for Rachel, and Marlene let the door close behind him. Not in anger, not in victory, but in resolve. Marlene didn't wait for the next blow. She filed a legal notice of no contact intent first thing Monday morning. Andre prepared the paperwork, couriered it to the county clerk, and copied 3 separate offices. This doesn't change the no contact order, he told her, but it reinforces your posture. It says, under law, that you are not open to reconciliation. I never was, Marlene replied. And if she tries again, through mail, phone, attorney, or otherwise, it's immediate grounds for escalation. Good. By noon, it was filed and confirmed. That same afternoon, a letter arrived in the mail, not from Rachel, but from Eli. Inside was a folded piece of printer paper with uneven edges, hand-drawn, done in colored pencil, a family tree. At the top were the grandparents, drawn in wobbly cursive. Underneath, Eric, Jonah, Rachel, and Marlene. Her name wasn't scratched out, wasn't smaller, wasn't off to the side. It was right there beside the others, inside a red heart. Below her name, 2 small stick figures labeled simply, Us. Marlene stared at the paper for a long time, then placed it face up on the table. She didn't cry, she didn't smile. She just picked up a pen and wrote a single word on a blank card, always. She mailed it that same hour. That week, Rachel's social standing began to fray. It started subtly, fewer likes on her posts, more read receipts left unanswered. The family group chat, once filled with memes and passive-aggressive commentary, had gone silent. Then the HOA moved. Teresa showed up to the committee meeting with a printed copy of the trespassing footage, the police report, and the trust filings, all legally shareable under community dispute protocols. Rachel didn't attend that meeting, but her name was on the agenda, and by the end, it was on the minutes, struck through with the note, removed from social committee pending board review. Teresa came by that evening, bottle of sparkling cider in hand. You won't hear it out loud, but the tide's turning. Marlene raised an eyebrow. Her little circle, Teresa continued. The women who used to repost her digs about you, they're falling off. Some of them unfollowed. A few reached out to me. To say what? That they didn't know, that they regret letting her steer the story. Marlene didn't react. Teresa poured 2 glasses of cider and sat beside her. Consequences arrive slower when they're real, but they stick longer. Marlene nodded once. Then she reached for the drawing Eli had sent. It sat in a clear sleeve now, tucked against her lamp where she could see it each night. Not framed, not pressed in glass, just present. I didn't think he'd remember me, Marlene said. He didn't just remember, Teresa replied. He placed you. Later that night, Marlene walked out onto her porch. The air was crisp. Autumn had settled in without permission, leaves falling without asking if the branches were ready. She looked across the street. Rachel's house was dark, porch light off, curtains drawn. It used to be the house of the holiday host, the place with glowing pumpkins and themed wreaths. Now it was just a structure. Marlene didn't feel satisfaction. She didn't want collapse. She wanted truth and protection. And tonight, she had both. She went back inside and locked the door. Then she turned off the lights, knowing she no longer had to explain herself to anyone still pretending not to see. The envelope was cream-colored and unmarked. No return address, no handwriting, just Marlene's name printed on a computer label, centered like it was meant to be formal, like it deserved dignity it hadn't earned. Teresa handed it to her after checking the mail. "Do you want me to shred it?" Marlene turned the envelope in her hands. It was heavy, too many pages for a bill, not enough for a document packet. "No," she said. "Not yet." She waited until the house was quiet. Tea steeped. Chair turned toward the window. Phone powered off. Then she opened it. The letter inside was typed in 11-point Georgia font, impersonal and polished, like an apology written with gloves on. It started with a half step. "I know we've both made mistakes." Then it leaned, slowly but surely, into blame. "You've never been easy to reach. You shut down the minute anyone pushes back. I only did what I thought protected the family. You misunderstood my role. Things got out of hand, but I never wanted them to end like this. I still believe I had a right to be involved." Near the end, it softened again. "I miss when we were close. I miss our shared memories. I want to fix it, but you've made it impossible to reach you. And finally, if you ever want to talk, I'm still your sister." No signature, just R. Marlene read it once, carefully. She didn't cry. She didn't feel rage or relief. She felt the way you feel when you realize something you lost long ago isn't coming back. Not because it's out of reach, but because it never truly belonged to you. She folded the letter in thirds and slid it into a file folder labeled Closure. Then she placed that folder in the back of the cabinet where she kept her estate plans, final wishes, and proof of her own handwriting. The next day, Andre finalized the trust. "Everything's locked," he told her. "Completely immutable. The estate, the protections, the disbursements. No changes, no loopholes. And Rachel is barred from any role, mention, or access." Marlene nodded. "Healthcare directives. Updated. Rachel is explicitly excluded from medical contact, emergency decisions, visitation rights, and all associated proxies. And the archive?" He smiled faintly. "Digitally sealed, time-stamped, redundant backups. If she tries to rewrite the story, we'll hand them the truth in PDF format." Marlene exhaled slowly. "Thank you." "You did the hard part," he said. "I just notarized it." That afternoon, Donnie came over. Teresa had told her the basics, just enough to understand the landscape without needing the whole weather report. They sat in the kitchen with chamomile tea and leftover lemon scones. Danny wore a soft green cardigan and had a laugh that sounded like wind chimes. "This house is too quiet now," Danny said. "In a good way." Marlene tilted her head. "You mean too peaceful to be real?" "I mean it feels like it belongs to one person again. You. No ghosts. No tension in the walls." Marlene allowed herself a smile. Danny sipped her tea. "Did you read the letter?" "I did." "And?" "It was written for her, not for me. Most are." They lapsed into an easy quiet, the kind that doesn't require effort or apology. Outside, the sky had softened into the color of parchment. Early autumn breeze pushed leaves across the pavement in lazy spirals. "I always imagined closure would feel bigger," Marlene said. "It usually doesn't," Danny replied. "It just arrives, then stays." They cleaned up the cups, put away the crumbs, and lingered for a moment by the open back door. Later, after Danny had gone and the sun dipped low, Marlene went to the cabinet once more. She opened the file labeled Closure and placed one final thing inside. A photograph of her and Rachel from 1995. They were sitting on the back steps of their childhood home, passing a bowl of strawberries, sunlight on their knees. No captions, no edits, just the truth, filed and closed. The last letter of intent wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even handwritten. It was a simple 3-page document printed on ivory paper with narrow margins and clean, decisive language. No embellishments, no space for interpretation, just facts, finalized. Marlene signed it at the kitchen table, her reading glasses sliding halfway down her nose. The morning sun falling through the blinds in even stripes. Andre had drafted every line with the same precision he brought to war declarations. final letter of intent, he'd labeled it. To be filed with the estate executor, personal attorney, medical custodian, and financial institution. All copies time-stamped, notarized, and irrevocable. It stated in clear terms, Rachel Patterson is to receive no information, access, decision-making authority, or notice regarding the health, death, assets, or estate activity of Marlene Patterson. This exclusion is not subject to revision, appeal, or arbitration. Any attempt to interfere shall be reported as a violation of standing no contact protections and referred for civil enforcement. Marlene signed all 4 copies in ink. Teresa stood by, sealing each envelope. Bank gets one, executor gets one. Hospital keeps a digital and paper copy, she said. And Rachel? Andre had arranged for that. The courier arrived at Rachel's door precisely at 3 p.m. She had to sign for it. No excuses. No deniability. The envelope was marked legal notification, immediate attention. Rachel opened it in the hallway, apparently, according to the neighbor who watched from across the street. Her face didn't move at first. Then she crumpled the first page in her fist. Inside, in clean serif font, the words were clear. You are legally excluded, not suspended, not pending, not under review, excluded. Teresa got the call less than an hour later. Not from Rachel, but from Rachel's friend Pamela, the one who used to host casual wine nights that always felt more like jury summits. She got the letter, Pamela said flatly. She's furious. Teresa didn't flinch. She should be. She's saying Marlene's being cruel, that this is vengeance. No, it's consequence. Pamela didn't argue, just said, she's not taking it well. Teresa passed along the message, but Marlene didn't ask for details. She'd already filed it away. That same evening, a different kind of message arrived. A manila envelope, stamped and folded with more care than urgency. Inside was a scanned copy of Eric's written apology, typed in his usual tight font, and a note from his new therapist, confirmation of enrollment, weekly sessions logged, commitments signed. The apology didn't try to erase. It acknowledged silence. It named complicity. It said, without flourish, I let her speak for me. I let you take the damage. I'm sorry, Marlene read it twice. Then she placed it in the archive folder, labeled conditional. She called Andre. Add a notation, she said. Eric's clause remains, but mark his efforts as in progress. And forgiveness? Earned, not assumed. Not yet. Andre understood. That night, after the mail was sorted and the dishwasher ran, Marlene sat in her reading chair and looked out the window. The neighborhood was quiet. No more HOA meetings. No more flyers dropped at her door. No more whispered speculation about her mental fitness, her estate, her estrangement. The silence didn't feel empty. It felt intact. At 8:42 p.m., her phone buzzed. A text from Eli. Only 5 more years until I turn 18. Marlene smiled. She replied with 2 words, I'll be right here. She didn't say more. She didn't have to. The second had no message body, just a subject line. Rachel Patterson has requested access to your medical records. Marlene stared at it, unblinking. No permission, no warning, no reason, unless Rachel was preparing to make a case that Marlene wasn't of sound mind. Not just an erasure now, a full discrediting. She stood up slowly, walked to the window, and looked out at her quiet street. Everything in place. Mailbox closed. Trash bins rolled in. And yet, something had changed. Rachel wasn't just afraid of being cut out. She was preparing for war. The next time Marlene sat in Andre Frank's office, she wore navy, not black, not gray. Navy was the color you wore when something was final. Andre slid the final draft across the desk without ceremony. His cufflinks glinted under the recessed ceiling light, but his expression was still, solemn, focused, exact. You've reviewed every page? He asked. Twice, Marlene replied, and once out loud. She uncapped the pen herself. The pages didn't feel like paper. They felt like stone, like carving something permanent. She signed. On page 12, the trust name was printed in bold. The Marlene G. Patterson Irrevocable Estate Trust. Every asset now flowed through it. Her home, her retirement accounts, the antiques, the art, the heirloom silver her grandmother had protected through a war. No probate court, no disputes, no interference, not even a whisper of permission for someone like Rachel to contest it. Andre flipped to the exclusion clause. "We're naming Rachel explicitly," he said, "as advised, with citation of incident and supporting records. This will stand." Marlene nodded. He read it aloud for clarity. Rachel Patterson is to receive no portion of the estate, nor any item or derivative thereof, for cause, as documented in attached exhibits AD. Any attempt by her, or by a representative acting in her interest, to contact, access, or challenge this trust shall nullify all contingent entitlements granted to associated family members. He glanced up. "You understand the scope of that clause." "I wrote it." Andre didn't smile. "Not many people are this direct. Not many people have been buried alive by their own family." She turned to the next page. Eric's name came next, not erased, but carved with caution. "Contingent inheritance," Andre said. "He receives a token sum, only if he neither contests the trust nor enables contact from excluded parties. If he shares anything, even a sentence, he forfeits his share." Marlene signed again, slower this time. "He's still my brother," she said quietly. "But he doesn't get to play both sides forever." Andre nodded once. "Understood." He flipped to the education trusts. One for Eli, one for Jonah. Subfunds sealed until age 18. Protected against external claims. Restricted use, tuition, housing, therapy, medical, caregiving. No access by anyone outside named guardians, Andre said. No loans, no redirection. If someone even tries to leverage them, they vanish, Marlene finished. Exactly. She signed both, hand steady. The final signature line sat beneath the successor trustee designation. She didn't hesitate. Teresa's name was printed in neat serif font. Teresa Caldwell, successor trustee with full fiduciary control. "She knows where everything is," Marlene said. "She knows who I am. That's more than I can say for the people who share my blood." Andre turned over the final page, placed the trust into its folder, and closed it like a sealed vault. "It's done," he said. Marlene exhaled. Not relief, not yet, but something closer to gravity, like settling into a place no one could shake loose. "They'll know eventually," Andre added. "When you're gone, when the will's read, when the doors don't open." "I'm counting on it." He hesitated, then asked gently, "Do you want to add a statement, something in your own words, for the record?" Marlene looked out the window. The blinds were closed, but she could see sunlight threading through them, warm and sharp, like glass you couldn't hold too long. She turned back. "No," she said. "Silence is the only message they ever gave me." She stood, smoothed the front of her blazer, collected her folder. But just before she reached the door, she turned back. "Email me a PDF copy and burn the originals into backup drives. One for me, one for Teresa." Andre nodded. "Already done." She paused. "If anything happens to me early, unexpected." Andre didn't flinch. "The trust autolocks, and your medical power of attorney reverts to Teresa, not Rachel." Marlene smiled, faint, sharp, final. "Good." Andre examined the form in silence. His expression didn't shift, but the way he held the page, thumb and forefinger at the top corner as if it were contaminated, said everything. Marlene sat across from him, composed. She didn't need to look at it again. "It's a forgery," Andre said quietly. "I assumed." "A lazy one," he added, laying it flat on the desk. "The signature's off. Tilt's wrong. Pressure points are inconsistent." And she used a witness who died 5 years ago. He tapped the embossed seal at the bottom. This design hasn't been in circulation since 2019. It's like she Googled a template and didn't even bother to update the details. She was counting on people not checking, Marlene said. That's always been her gift, sounding confident enough that no one asked questions. Andre nodded once. It would have slipped past most institutions. But not the bank. No, thankfully, someone flagged the mismatch. He opened a separate folder and slid it across the table. Inside was a formal notice from Marlene's credit union. Attempted authorization denied. Fraud protocol activated. Client advised. She tried to add herself as a co-signer, he said. Claimed she was your primary medical agent and was helping you with a financial transfer. Gave them this forged form as proof. Marlene's jaw tightened. And they notified you. And froze all account actions until they confirmed with me directly, he said. Which was smart, but this puts us in escalation territory now. This isn't just overstepping. No, Marlene said. It's criminal. Andre opened his laptop and turned it toward her. We need to revoke every prior authorization, power of attorney, medical directives, beneficiary designations, anything she could possibly copy, claim, or weaponize. Then we rebuild from scratch. This time under legal encryption protocols. No legacy access. Teresa only, Marlene said. She's the only person I trust with anything. I've already preloaded her as your sole proxy, Andre said, typing quickly. Financial and medical access split under dual verification systems. Everything will be double witnessed and protected by legal record. He paused, then added, We'll also place a security flag on your property records. If she tries to inquire about home ownership or deed status, it'll trigger a legal alert. Do it. She signed the revocation forms one by one, her hand steady. Then came the replacements. New healthcare proxy, new POA, new contingent guardian notices, all dated and stored in triple encrypted backups. When it was done, Andre looked up. This is bulletproof. She can't get near anything now. Not your doctor, not your pharmacy, not your taxes. If she makes another attempt, we'll get notified immediately. I want a report filed, Marlene said. Andre didn't blink. Police? Yes. I stopped at the station this morning. She reached into her purse and pulled out a neatly labeled folder. On the front, in block letters, Case 21, Forgery, Fraud, Abuse. Inside were photocopies of the forged form, her formal notarized statement, and 3 supporting exhibits, including the bank's alert. I asked for a case number. It's on the back page. Andre flipped to it. You're not just protecting yourself. I'm documenting the truth, she said. If I had died before that form was reviewed, she could have walked into a hospital and decided whether I lived or not. I want that on record. He nodded slowly. You're sure you're ready for what comes with this? Marlene's voice didn't waver. I spent years letting her write the story. That ends now. His phone buzzed on the desk. He glanced at the screen, then turned it over. And now you're going to get blowback. I'm ready for that too. Her phone buzzed almost immediately after. A text from Eric. You're escalating things. This isn't what Dad would have wanted. She read it once, then again, slower. For a moment, her fingers hovered over the screen. Not out of uncertainty, but to feel the weight of what she'd already let go. She typed one line. He told me to protect myself. You didn't listen. Then she hit send and turned off her phone.